Oh, I know why I'm out of focus is because the camera is on the shelf with the jigsaw and it's vibrating everything. Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Power Workshop. It is I, that commercial that loves to interrupt your show right when things get good, Techno Meow Tinkerer. And today we're going to make our own custom antenna. Kind of creative for those of us who want to watch TV with a lot of our favorite classic shows have returned back to television. So we're just going to create a very powerful, unique antenna for this unit here so I can pick up my stations and for all of you who want to cut the cord and get something. So all we're going to do is we take this, bend that, and then place it in the input, and boom, we have our great, classic, powerful antenna. I do jest, but this right here is to signify you don't really need much for an antenna just to get a little bit of clarity. A lot of these HD digital antennas are gimmicky. All TV channels still run on the same thing of a frequency that you just need something to help pick it up. Now, some tuners will be stronger than the others, but I've used back when you had old analog TV signals and even the digital. A paper clip is quite powerful just to clear up some of your local stations. You could use something like this. This might have some bit of electronics in it because this was off of a dish, our old dish satellite that for the remotes, but you can still use it. I've used it on the TV before to help clarify the signal. I've even used something like this, just a piece of coax cable I have ran up the wall. Just the simple fact this copper here helps picks up some of that signal. And so you don't need much to do a little clarity. Now it depends on how far your TV station is to where you're at is how much of a antenna you're gonna need. Again, let me switch on over to my graphics here so we can actually see what I'm talking about. Okay, we're now back in Krita here, and so we're going to kind of go over some of the stuff that we need to do. Go ahead and quickly make me a broadcast antenna. Whoops. And with most broadcast signals, just do a little antenna here. Switch over to the brush right quick so I can make the dish part. Yeah, it would not normally be pointing down like this, but for all intents and purposes, we just leave it like this. No, but for most broadcasts, but every broadcast signal, CB, radio, television, satellite, they all send it in a wave form. And if I remember correctly, and it's been years, I want to think it is the peaks and the valleys are the part of the waves you want to give. I think they're the strongest. I don't remember. I'm trying to remember if we covered this in my college physics class. I remember we did cover waves. I'm trying to remember if my dad said anything. I know one reason why I'm saying this is because in the old antennas, my dad used to tell me when he used to install it back in the 70s and 80s, is that when you install the antenna, they had a device they would hook up to the antenna, and as they would raise the antenna and lower it, use the device to find the peak signal so you can get the best quality picture from the broadcast. Now, I think, and you may want to go watch the Antenna Guy's channel. I've watched some of his videos. I think if I remember correctly, and I'll post a picture here of the video, if that's the one I'm thinking of, and a link to it so you can go watch his stuff if you want to find out how to set up an antenna for best reception. But if I remember correctly, he did cover I think it was a DVR. It was a digital receiver box, I believe, is what it was, at the very least, that had a way of where you can set your indoor antenna and it can tell you how strong the signal was, so it shows you the optimal place in your room where to put the antenna. Now, the most optimal place is to put the antenna outside, because as indoors go, you have your walls and your ceilings, and they have stuff in them. And so when the broadcast signal comes, it weakens the signal as it gets through to your antenna. And it depends upon what it is. Metal, I think, is more notorious than wood. I don't know about plaster. Some homes, older homes had plaster walls. The type of insulation you use may play a part. Any other electrical devices could interfere, and so stuff like that. And so he covers, I think, one of the things, and he might have more on his channel. I've only seen some of his episodes or some of his videos. Episodes, might as well call them episodes. And for if you want to set up an antenna and you want to make a creative one like this one, but have it optimal for use, because the one I'm doing, I don't think it's going to be much better than just having the paper clip connected to the back of the TV. I'm doing this more for fun and decorative with some functionality, but I have not got into the real science and mechanics of it to make sure I can optimize it. But if you want to, go right ahead. I might do that in a later video. I do have old satellite dish left when they upgraded our system that I may do something like that with. And that's because in the old satellites, some of the people would take the dish, and I may do it as a project, and they'll put the little antenna on the dish for the radio signal, because when you got the signal coming, they're looking at it bouncing off the dish as well as hitting it directly. So you're kind of getting it from multiple angles, a better signal quality. And well, I may do that in a future video. I got the dish. I'm holding on to it for in case I want to do a project with it. I have not decided yet on what type of project, but you can use it for a directional antenna. Now, going back to some of the actual antennas again, directional and omnidirectional. I have not experienced or used an omnidirectional antenna, so I cannot tell you the quality. I just know if you have competing stations, or as in the stations are on very close or on the same channel, you will have interference. I don't know how well the interference is with the new digital versus the old analog. Analog to me was a better thing as far as strength of signal. Even in storms, you could still pretty well watch your stations where digital at pixelate. But the downside with analog and the upside of digital is digital you can get more precise with the frequency. So basically every time you have a place behind that decimal, that's one frequency. And I'm putting zeros. Technically it'll be like a 1 or 2 or whatever. But every place there's another frequency. There's another channel, another channel. So you could create more channels on a spectrum than old analog could. And they kind of had to do this back in the 90s, because I think some states like Florida, they ran out of space on like their telecom system, so they had to switch to digital because they had no more room on the frequency to put another, I think it was a cell phone, in without interfering with someone else's signal. So they had to switch. From my understanding, they had to switch to the digital because of they needed all the to be able to create more channels because of the number of people. I'm thinking it's been a while. It's been about 20, 30 years. It's about 25 years now since some of that stuff. 30 years. Anything else I need to say about the signal? Oh yeah, they do have, going back to the antennas. Most antennas you would see was the Christmas tree or the tree looking one. I really don't know what type they call it. Now these were usually directional, and you would aim them directly at the tower so you can get the signal. Now sometimes you would see another smaller antenna, and I remember seeing this even on ours, aimed a different direction, and that was to pick up a different satellite signal. So you could have, so you can pick up more channels. No, I don't want to say satellite, I have television signal. Now I have seen some people do the spiral antenna, and I don't know enough about the science to say. I've not experienced or used a spiral. I can theoretically think why it might be a nicer antenna. Um, I'm going to use it here just for more decorative, but the spiral, because you got horizontal this way, vertical this way, and then horizontal this way. So you basically got your X, Y, and your Z axis. And if you kind of like in Blender, no, I don't have two Z's. I have two X. Your X, Y, and Z. So I can kind of see how it works based on, okay, theoretically you would think, now I don't know for sure in practicality or reality how good this is, but yeah, coming across I would think so, because if you look at some of these tree antennas, sometimes they'll have like little tail wings with stuff on it, so you kind of thinking it's doing the same thing as this is doing here. I'm not 1% sure. Delete that stuff off. But one thing is, doing this project, the spiral I think is going to be easier to make than the tree, because the tree you're going to have to solder, and you're going to have to make sure if you want it to look nice, you're going to have to make sure these are cut at a nice uniform angle so it looks proper. But far as the project goes, the spiral one is easier to make because you can just use a pin to wrap the copper around. And that's pretty much, I think, everything I want to cover about the actual antenna. So now let's get into making it. Okay, as we look here, this is a tray, if I remember correctly, that came out of an optical drive. And I'm kind of reusing the screw holes here. I'm just widening them enough to put the F connector in, or the type F connector. I forgot what the actual proper name. We always call them, some people call them cable connectors, F connectors. I need it big enough. And took it outside to paint everything white. Oh, the blue thing came off of one of those toys from the Dollar Tree. I'll show you a picture here. It is just basically the base of a garage repair, but it has a unique look that it can be used for like a doorway. Now, one thing I didn't know is, one of the reasons I did it this way with the jigsaw, boy, I didn't realize I was out. Oh, I know why I'm out of focus, is because the camera is on the shelf with the jigsaw and it's vibrating everything. But no, one reason I did it this way originally is because most plastics, and most of the plastics I was working with was a hard plastic, and you had to think. I didn't realize how soft this plastic was until I went to cut with a box cutter. The final little bit right here, I didn't realize how soft this was, that I, when I was scoring it, I could have done this whole piece this way. So you may want to check your plastic piece first before you go using a jigsaw, which in that case we had the jigsaw make it like a table. But this plastic was so soft, actually, when later I needed some strips for filler on some stuff, I was able to cut with scissors. So yeah, and I had debated whether or not to cut that plastic. Now the reason I'm scoring this plastic here, and this is actually a hard plastic that you wouldn't be able to cut with the scissors, and is so that when I put the glue down, it will give a little bit more grip to the surface. You can see when I'm putting this glue down, it'll give some more grip. This was these you can buy these at the Dollar Tree. I bought this years ago for the little stand displays for on the table, or when I had a storefront. But they've been in storage since then, so I'm using it. Glue everything down. These craft boards also from the Dollar Tree. Yeah, you see my jig of making planks. I'm still not this good. As a matter of fact, I did pick up some more of the type of boards from the Dollar Tree because I still hadn't gotten good at cutting strips of wood yet. Marking kind of where I want the thing to be, because what I end up doing here is I went over to my scanner and I just laid it down on a scanner so I could go into, matter of fact, here we are at Crete. I'm going to go import my scan in so I can crop off all the excess stuff, because I could not lay the lid down because of the backing of the stand. So I basically cropped everything down, and then I imported on over to Illustrator, as we're going to see here in just a second. Okay, we're in Illustrator now. This way I could actually kind of create a bit of uniformal, sort of sci-fi techish look, I guess. For some reason, technology has trapezoid looking shapes. Really couldn't figure out what I wanted to do up here too much. I was playing around with some stuff. But it's just basically now when we get to doing something else later, I will kind of wish I just printed this out instead of trying to wood burn it and then carve it, which we'll get here in a moment. But just basically a few little simple shapes. Now I did reduce that down in size because I realized that there was a piece I was wanting to put there. And here we go, the wood burn. Now I haven't done wood burning in years, and I never really was that good at it. I actually use this wood burner to melt plastic holes in plastic more than anything else. But no, I was trying something out to see if I can put the imprint on the board by using the wood burner. And some of it did turn out okay. For some reason, some of them didn't come out quite straight, and I think one reason is because of trying to see the tip edge of the wood burn, which I'm running up and down the stuff. You drill the holes out. First, I drilled a main hole and then just enlarged it enough to put the F connector through. And I end up you see where it's shattered in the back. I end up cutting it off now. Yeah, here is where I took my little carbon, trying to clean up the edges or the lines a little bit better. Because yeah, most sci-fi stuff, the panels are never smooth. Well, not most. There's some out there where it's very smooth and sleek looking, but a lot of times there's always some sort of indent or being like where multiple panels have been placed. Part of the thing I was doing too is I was trying to carve, like if I carve off the burnt wood piece, and then I know I probably did a good job of grooving it. I think yeah, that was the one for some reason, and I can kind of see it here, but it was really noticeable later on that for some reason I did not get those lines straight, which is why I think when I go do the hallway design, when I print it out, I kind of wish I had printed the whole thing out versus carving, but live and learn. And these are some Dollar Tree tools, so I don't know actually how sharp they are. I haven't really done any type of carving in anything since like college days, and I think it was linoleum blocks for printmaking, or was that high school? I know in high school we did a tournament card. Now I'm using a Sharpie to darken out the lines because I'm getting ready to paint this orange, and I just realized and I just messed up on that one thing. And if you've watched my Mega Man diorama video, then you probably already know that certain colors like orange and yellow, as you can see, bleed through the back of the orange. That's why usually you want to put a coat of white down on some surfaces so it won't take so many coats. And I don't know if anybody noticed this, but because of the lighting, but actually I didn't realize till after I glued the boards on, and I glued them on backwards. Pay attention to the direction of which side is painted when you go to glue something down. Don't be a fool like me. Also, one thing I did learn is that some of the plastic pieces like this one took the coat of white paint great. Didn't want to take the coat of orange paint. Now, the white paint was spray paint, as we saw earlier. This is acrylic paint, so I don't know if it's just the material. Same thing with this. It seemed like it didn't want to take the acrylic that well, even though I put the coat of white spray paint down. Now, on my Mega Man diorama book, I didn't seem to have this issue. Not with the wood nor metal, so it must be the plastic. So, if you want a nicer coat, unless you got a way of dipping the plastic, you may want to buy a can of spray paint. I was trying to go over acrylic because acrylic is cheaper than spray. Oh yeah, I didn't show this earlier when I was painting, but that is the little ramp from the toy as well. Didn't want it green, wanted kind of a grayish color to be similar to the road. Okay, now here we get into Blender, and yeah, that's one of the Autobot scenes from the G1 series. I'm partially modeling off of. And if you watch my extrude and bevel Blender videos, you'll kind of see how I create this very quickly. Uh, Oh yeah, also I do a merging video too, so you'll know how I kind of merge some of this stuff very fast. If you want to get into the more details of some of the techniques in Blender that I use to create this kind of quickly. This was just to be a quick little, well, kind of quick. It actually took me a while to create this, but it was really supposed to be like just a little quick nod to the G1 hallway that the Autobots would leave their base through. Oh, I put these in here. I didn't really end up using them in the final product, but I put them in here, and I'm holding on to this just in case I want to use this in any shape or form for future Autobot projects, or to even Decepticon. I don't know if the Decepticon hallways were designed. I have to go back and look through. I'm sitting here adding color, and the only reason I'm adding color is because when I go to export this video frame out, is so I can easily see some of the stuff. Even though I added the white or the lighting, which I didn't perfectly place. But like you said, I see here in Illustrator. This is why I can kind of see some of the details because I wanted to create this as Illustrator. I could probably have used this now if I went in and done the detail a little bit differently. But the reason I did it in Illustrator because I have a little better knowledge of control of how to change size easily, especially since this is just going to be a 2D image. It'd be easier for me to do it in Illustrator and to get it to fit. Because that's the one thing I did. I did put the box shape that I'm working into the dimensions I need for the antenna diorama. Just simply following the lines here. I probably could actually have cut some of this stuff out since it's all repetitive. Now, one thing I did do to kind of cheat, I'm adding the color in now, just some basic color. Go in and try to make sure all my edges are lined up. Not that you probably can tell or would have noticed with the size this thing's going to be, because I think it's like 3 by 3 inches, but I still wanted it to be close. I can be stickler for detail sometimes. Now I remember my art teacher and my graphic design classes in college. He would talk about he was talking to us about the different way we work one day in class. Somehow some were very meticulous, like I was being right there for how getting in and fine detail, and how some weren't. And I was actually surprised, and this is trying not to be too boastful here, but he said I was one that actually fluctuate between the two. And sometimes I would be like this very detailed, getting everything lined up, and there are times, and it kind of depends upon the project and what flow I want to go to. This is mechanical, it's supposed to be like a hallway machinery. It's not supposed to be abstract, so yeah, you kind of want to be a little bit more detail, meticulous. I'm trying to, yeah, some of when I moved some stuff around, it didn't look right, and so I'm sitting there trying to realign everything. Your project, depending on what you're going for, you may not have to be quite as meticulous as I am. And basically, one of the things I wanted to do back here was just kind of create one of those little doors, like a sliding door or something, nothing real fancy. Now, the one thing I did realize is the orange didn't do too well, so I just, as you can see here, I'm bringing in the picture from the movie and just copying one of the gray colors, trying to line everything up. I kind of do want it centered. This is that meticulous. Now, when you're doing something now, I think the times when I wasn't meticulous is when I was doing some Art Nouveau stuff, which tends to be a bit more whimsical, especially anything abstract. You, I have to kind of make myself not to be meticulous. Yeah, I keep using the model plane glue for about everything. It's supposed to connect every surface. And of course, the old brayer. You remember my diorama. Mega Man Diorama, you kind of know that. Did I just pass by? Oh, if you're wondering why that's now black, it's because I went and grinded it down because the front of this thing was not quite. And here's the me reusing the plastic again. This is before I realized I could cut it with scissors, which was a whole lot easier. But yeah, the right side is a little lower than the left side. And the left side I kind of grinded down with the grinder, but it's only so thick, and so I couldn't grind down too far. You can kind of see a little bend there. I did go in and out. Now here, this piece, if you're wondering what that is wood glue and sawdust I will use to fill in the holes. Now I did use the model glue and some sawdust to start off with when I first put it in the base of these holes, and I went back with wood glue and sawdust. I added sawdust to both because I want to make sure I have some way of these materials gripping. I don't know if I really needed to do that, but I did it as a precaution. And now I'm making the disc part of the my antennas out of the bottom of an aluminum can. Now remember, aluminum is soft enough that these are thin enough you can use wood tools with, but still be careful. As you can see, I used clamps to hold it as I was drilling, and I had it down the table. Oh yeah, these are from those Action Force things out the Dollar Tree. Clipped off the little pegs and just glue them in. Just adding detail. What are supposed to be anything? Not really, just something decorative. Oh yeah, some more of those little tiles. When I thought these tiles had peel-off backings, but they didn't. But they were from the Dollar Tree too, the little mosaic tiles. And I kind of get a couple different ways of trying to make sure they're all line up. And I did this I was on a popsicle stick too, and so I can put them back here in this little opening, kind of fill in the opening and give it a little bit more color. And before we move on to the rest of the video, I am going to talk a little bit about the coaxial cable you're going to need. As you can kind of see here in the picture, I have 3 coax cables. One of these has a push-on balun. That's this one right here. These other 2, the screw-on, are usually the 2 generally that we sold as far as the cable. The one in the middle is the thinner one is RG59, and the one at the top is a RG6 cable. Now, when you're dealing with jumpers, you want usually for like 3 to 6 feet. A lot of times we use RG59. RG6 was used more for outdoors and for running long distance in the house, like 20, anything usually over 10 feet. Definitely over 20 or more, we would definitely went for RG. Around anywhere around 10 to less feet, maybe sometimes 12 feet, we would use RG59, but most time RG6 because RG6 is better insulated from, so you don't have signal loss. And of course, like I think I mentioned earlier, you can always use an amplify system if you need to run, if you're running it for real long distance. But what you want for this project is the RG59 cable. And one reason why is because you're making some short jumpers. You don't really need nothing as thick, and it's a little bit easier to work with because of it being it's a thinner cable, so it's a lot more flexible. And with that being said, also depending upon, I will make note of splitters that you use. I don't know for sure if any splitter can be, or I know for sure that certain splitters can't be used, but your standard splitter from splitting from one antenna to 2 TVs, theoretically, I think any of them can be used. I don't know exactly full extent of circuitry. I have not played around with the more modern ones to see if you could put the antenna in the input to the VCR and not the antenna, the antenna output, or the way I should have done it was hooked my VCR up to the output, my VCR output to the splitter output, then to my DVR then the input to my DVR input to see if I got a video signal or any loss. I have not done that. I might do it before I record the end of this video, but for right now, like I said, this may be no more than just using a paper clip. And with that being said, let's get on to the final leg of the video of you watching me bring it all together, and then afterwards I'll give you my full review of my project. Oh, one more thing about the splitter. You do not want to use a splitter that has sat on one of the outputs. Those splitters require voltage for signal to go through. They're specifically, if I think, designed for satellite use. I don't 100% know for sure wants to deal with them. I just know they require power. So you don't want to use a splitter that has sat on one of the outputs. With that being said, and no further ado, let's get on with the finishing up and wrapping up of this build. Ta-da! We have the Autobot Communication Hub Rabbit Ear Antenna completed. Now, I went in this with really no plan at all, just a general idea, and I made it up as I go along. But going back and looking at some of the stuff now, after how well the printout did for the hallway, I kind of wish I did the whole background of the front that way, because my wood burning and carving skills did not do good straight lines. The little blades I got at the top are kind of a little busy for that area, I would say. But not having them just made it look kind of dull with everything being kind of orangey looking. The dish part of the antenna made from the cans, you kind of had to bend a little bit to get where I can screw the thing on to hold them in place. And there were probably a couple ways I could have gone about it, but I would have had to order some parts to actually extend that a bit. And it's kind of where you wish you had a 3D printer to print some stuff out. The blue accents kind of help, especially the dark blue seems to help up top. I probably should have gone with that, with the beside the entranceway. I have yet to decide what I really want to do with that one blank slate on the right side of the entrance. If I want to create something to go there, I have not done nothing. But I did take the guns from the same action fantasy fix. I don't remember. I showed a picture earlier from the Dollar Tree, and I placed at top. They fit in those holes pretty good, and they rotate. Now, the center cannon gun, whatever you want to consider it to be, I think it's from an old soldering iron. It was in my collection of parts and junk I have over the years. Another thing is I do kind of wish that the copper that I used for the spiral part was a bit more thicker. The one out of the RG59 cable seems flimsy. Now, I'm not 100% sure, and I didn't even bother looking, whether the copper in RG6 was thicker, but I didn't really want to cut up none of my RG6 cable quite yet. Although I think I might have some buried somewhere with no end on one end that I could have clipped some off, but I would have gone digging through the storage bin. Now I did end up hooking this up, and right now I went through, and none of my channels I could tell through are coming through pretty good on my DVR. I would not pick up none of the channels when I didn't have an antenna hooked up, so I don't know if it's really this or just the simple fact that I got a cable. Because like I said earlier, your simple coax cable acts like an antenna. And go back to some of the videos I represent earlier, the antenna man. He's the one you want to watch if you want to find out probably the best place to put antennas, what antenna to get. Like I said, this is more for fun. Now you could probably get into the actual science and make something like this to be a workable antenna and an awesome diorama at the same time. And that might be a future project. Well, for the most part, hey, what's going on? What's this? Why is I'm losing signal? Transmission. Hey, tech crew, why's the transmission going wrong? Tech crew, tech crew.
I, Soundwave, have commandeered this Autobot communication hub in the name of this Decepticon cause. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content and want to support the channel. Plus share it with your friends. All hail Megatron.
Yeah.